Aloha, this is Aja Eyre coming to you with the Maui Pono Network weekly update. This is the week of December 18th. Today is actually Tuesday. We held off for a day to post this weekly update because we wanted to get the feedback from the Lahaina Civic Center meeting that happened on Monday night, which was concerning the Olowalu dump site for the ashes and debris from the Lahaina fires. So a number of the Maui Pono Network board actually attended that meeting and had a lot to report. It was very well attended. There were over 300 people at the Civic Center, and then there were almost 4,000 people online watching this meeting. And what this shows is that people are very concerned about this Olowalu site for the debris dumping. This was something that was passed back in October. We actually did one of our weekly updates about it, about they were going to be wrapping debris, or the Army Corps of Engineers and the state and the county are going to be wrapping the debris into these plastic burritos, large, like the size of a truck or a container, a shipping container, and placing them in the ground at this Olowalu site, which has previously been a quarry, and it's also previously been a dump, an area where they receive waste. For the last, I don't know, as long as I can, a decade or more, it's been it's kind of by that turnoff where you can go and drop your refuse there on the west side. So back in those mountains, there was information that was put on at the meeting last night by the county about what they were going to be doing at the site and why that site was chosen just a little bit. But the number of attenders, I think, shows more than anything that there are a lot of unanswered questions. Questions about, were only sites near Lahaina looked at? Did we look at the central dump? A lot of people have said, oh, there's too much traffic, they'll make too many trucks going, but is that really as big of a problem as it seems? Does everything need to be dumped at Olowalu? Is there a division of the toxic, non-toxic? What's going on is just, we do know that like burned cars and things like that are going to be metal recycled, but is there a way that even things could be divided up? There's also questions about, there was a rumor that FEMA had said that they would take everything and they would ship it all off island, and why was that option not looked at more seriously? So there's so many questions about this. People who live near there have taken the time to video what's been happening, to gather information about what is actually going on at the site. A lot of it's very disturbing. A lot of the things that were put in place in the original appeal to use this site are not actually happening. And the major concern here is the ecological fragility of this area. So Olowalu's nearshore reefs are, it's a mother reef. It's a very important area for replenishment of the species and the ecology of the nearshore area in West Maui. And why there was a reason why the dump was removed and the quarry doesn't happen there anymore. So what are those reasons? Are we just going back on what we've learned from the past? These are the questions. There's many more. Hundreds of people had questions that were unable to be answered at the meeting last night. So how can you be involved if you have questions? How can you be involved in this ongoing decision? Some people say, hey, they're going to use the site. They've already done all the permitting. So maybe we need to ask questions about how we could use it better or more appropriately if it is going to be used, absolutely. Or maybe we just need to keep fighting them and not be used at all. All these different options. Everybody on island is probably thinking about this, but especially those who live on the west side and especially those who are living close to it. So how do you get involved? We're going to have some links on our site. There'll be a link of the meeting on Monday night. There'll be a link that to kind of get you in touch with kind of the leaders who are the community leaders who are against this. And then probably the most important thing you can do in the near future, in the next couple of days, is come to that next county council meeting, which is on the 22nd of this. So that's this week. And they'll be discussing this there as well. And they'll be receiving testimony. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of testimony. So it might be a good meeting for you to send testimony in ahead of time. They may not get to everybody who's doing verbal testimony, but check out the links that we have on our site and you can learn more and participate more. And we just really appreciate everybody who's been working hard on this. Okay, and then other things that happened, and we did not have a update last week, but there were some important meetings that happened in the council last week. The council has been working very hard. They've been working on stuff all day, every day. One of the things was that the Bill 131 that is offering the substantial tax breaks for properties that convert to long-term rentals. Now, this has been in the news a ton. This has been in national news, statewide news. The governor is saying, I'm going to, issue a moratorium against short-term rentals. People are very angry. It's kind of the scapegoat are these short-term rentals. But I wanted to go through some of the numbers here and kind of just talk about how we got to this point. Just bear with me for about 20 seconds here. So according to the most recent census and the tax information, there's between 72,000 and 74,000 residences on Maui. So these are homes, condos, apartments. There's a little bit of a variation there, partly because timeshares don't really show up. They usually go under one TMK, so one property number, and then there's some other divided homes. But the estimation is that it's between 72,000 and 74,000. Now, 32,000 homes on Maui, so 43% of the homes are owner occupied. So these are homes, apartments, condos that actually have an owner living in them. 18,000, so 24%, are long-term rentals. Now, in order to have a long-term rental on your tax listing, you actually have to have somebody in there for over a year at a time, and it's not being short-term rented, but it is occupied. And that's about 24%, 18,000. Now, there are these two categories that are kind of the ones that are being made the enemy right now, and one of them is short-term rentals. Now, that is between 12 and 14,000. Again, that timeshare thing gets a little tricky there because timeshares are owned by corporations, and they don't always divide up the little tax things. We're not, again, this is something I've been screaming about for years. We don't actually know exactly how many timeshares are on Maui. But that is about 16% of the homes on Maui. And then there is another 12,000 homes that are neither listed as owner occupied, short-term rental, or long-term rental. And that's another 16%. So there are just as many second homes or unoccupied vacant homes as there are short-term rentals. Now, this Bill 131 is trying to get trying to incentivize people who have short-term rentals into converting to long-term rentals. There were so many great testimonies on this. I recommend if you're interested in this issue and you haven't watched it, go back and watch that. We're actually also going to post something that gives a good rundown of that meeting. Nothing has totally passed yet. Alice Lee, who's the council chair, doesn't think this is going to be enough incentive. The governor is being called a dictator by news outlets around the country, because going against people's permitted rights to have short-term rentals. But really, the elephant in the room are the equal number of second homes that are unoccupied. So a couple of suggestions on how to fix this and why we're here. It's partially because of our property taxes. So our property taxes are really, really low. Maui is a great place for people to invest in as a second home because they can own a second home here and they're paying close to nothing when it comes to property taxes. Another problem is we have these Minatoya short-term rentals that were kind of slipped in the early 2000s, and that those permits for those short-term rentals were supposed to kind of go away, but the current council hasn't really approached it. So there's kind of all these little pieces all over the place, but a lot of it has to do just like with equitable taxing and really ignoring the hotels when they just come down on short-term rentals and making them the evil ones, and looking instead at how we can use property taxing, which is what the county has the ability to do, to make tourism a more equitable system and something that actually pays into the local economy instead of just heading out through the hotel corporations offshore. So again, this is something that will, there's news articles you can check. Civil Beat has done a good job looking at this. There's a lot of chatter online. If you're in discussion groups, bring this up. What about all of these unoccupied homes, these 16%? So same number as the short-term rentals, unoccupied second homes. How do we get these 4,000 people who are seriously unhoused right now after the fires. There's 7,000, supposedly 7,000 people, 4,000 households that need to be housed. So we're looking at that very seriously. And other things this week, just if you can make it, I know it's a busy time of the year for most people. If you can come online to that meeting on the 22nd, December 22nd, these things will happen. Other ways you can be helpful. Lahaina Luna is having a really hard time staying staffed because there's not homes for their faculty and staff. So if you can contribute in some way, either you're an educator or something, that's a good way to help out right now. And again, if you have a short-term rental or an unoccupied home, maybe, or have friends that have those, maybe talk to them about what the benefits are of doing a long-term rental and help them on their way. A lot of property managers are trying to discourage people from doing that, but that's something that we can each do, is talk to those that we know that maybe have that extra space, and let's get these people housed. Hope you have a great holiday season. Hope you're staying dry out there, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.